In part 3 of this series, we're going to finish up the Cinemagraph in After Effects, create some more looping animations, and do some final color grading.
Alright, in part 2 we created our looping gravel animation, which I brought into our main comp here. And it's going to loop seamlessly, but what we want to do is match it to the gravel that's already there. It's going to make our life a lot easier, and it's just going to fit in with the lighting and the look of everything. And I'm going to use Lumetri color so I can do all the adjustments I need in one effects pane. Just simplifies everything, and then we'll be replicating this effect later on as we add more instances of this gravel effect. So just adjusting the tint a little bit, making little tweaks here and there just so it fits in. That's looking pretty close. Now we're going to position it and scale it down to the size that we need. Give it some rotation, adjust the opacity so we can see what we're doing. I think it needs to be rotated. Just a little bit more to fit with the angle that this gravel would be reflected. So now we'll take a look at the distortion. The mirror, it's a curved object, so we want to replicate that in some way. And there's a ton of ways to do it, but on this tutorial I'm going to use maybe the oldest filter out there. It's an oldie but a goodie, and that's Bulge. So it's a pretty simple tool. You have your radius for the bulge, and like everything, you just kind of mess around with it. Adjust all your dimensions here, give it some more rotation. And what we're looking for from this effect is an approximation of the distortion in the reflection. Nothing too accurate. You know, it really doesn't have to be a 3D mesh or anything like that. So just kind of play around with it. And then once you have it in the place you like it, go ahead and draw a mask around it. I always start with just a pretty rough mask just so we can see what we're dealing with. And you can see here that the bulge effect has imparted its own look onto the mask. So you just have to work around that and sort of compensate by grabbing the handles. And it's already kind of looking the way we want. So here I sped up the footage to show some more tweaks. You just kind of have to play with it, zoom out, zoom in, move the handles around, and just get it to a point where you like the way it looks. So now we're going to do the same thing, bring in the clip again, another instance of the gravel, and we're going to create the reflection for the door here. So rotate it, get it to where it's matching up nicely. And again, we're using Lumetri so we can do all these adjustments right there in one window instead of stacking hue and saturation and curves. So just make little adjustments, eyeball it, and that's looking pretty good. So what we'll do now is duplicate this gravel again, because what we're trying to achieve is a bit of a realistic effect where the foreground reflection it's going to be moving a little bit faster than the background. So we'll give it a parallax effect. We scale it up, which will make it effectively look faster. So I'm going to scale down the one in the background just to enhance the effect a little bit. And then we're going to feather it with this mask so it blends really nice. Increase that up to maybe 95 or 100. And now you'll do the same thing with this mask, which when you feather it is going to just further enhance that parallax effect because they'll be blending into each other. So I think that's looking pretty good. Now let's tackle the top part of the door. Head back over to Adobe Stock and find a nice cloudy landscape picture. And it's going to work to do the same effect for the top part of the door. I think this one will do just fine. So I'm going to skip ahead to where I've already made the animation going left and right. It's the same thing we've done with the clouds and the gravel, same deal. So now we have it in our main comp, and we're going to give it some rotation and make some adjustments here and there to blend it with the gravel. So we're going to drop the opacity a little bit, just start playing around with it. So in Lumetri, we're going to drop the saturation so it blends a little bit better. It's a little too colorful. And the final step is to do all the masks, which I've sped up so you don't have to watch me click around and do all these. But super important not to rush it in actuality. And final step is we're going to do some color grading. I've already color graded this footage ahead of time just so it was more interesting to look at, but I'm going to do a few highlight adjustments, shadow in the Lumetri panel, maybe warm it up a little bit. Add a little vignette. I think it kind of holds the composition together. And there you have it, the final piece. I think it's a great example of using stock as a way to supplement what you shoot in camera when you can't necessarily create all these things on set or it's just too complicated. So thanks for following along, and I'll see you at the next one.